Says it's live on Facebook.
It says it's live. We're live on Facebook. Woo-hoo. Even though my machine is saying you're just getting ready to go on live, but there you go. Hey, so we are live on Facebook. How awesome is technology? Pretty exciting.
Oh yes, it says on my phone that we're live now too.
Yeah, cool. So if I do happen to look down to my phone at any stage, it's just so I'm keeping an eye if there are any comments. So that we can answer any comments as we go if there are any. Sure. But the first and foremost, I want to say thank you so much for being here. And it's an awesome opportunity to have a chat with you. And just, we have a couple of different groups, just so people can start to get to know the members and connect with them and see how we can all help each other as well.
Sure.
So nothing to be scared of. I don't bite. Well, only gentle. So tell us first and foremost, so Miss Wendy Corner, who is the Comm Coach, but tell us kind of in brief terms who you were that brought you to who you are now, and what was a bit of that journey in the between.
Okay. Who I was. My background is as a speech pathologist.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I've got a frog in the throat. Would you excuse me, Strecken?
Get him out.
Yes. So my background is in speech pathology. Right from an early age, there were excitement about communication. I made up my own language when I was tiny and I had lots of fun with language generally and communication. When I went off to university, I became a speech pathologist and really focused in on non-verbal as well as verbal communication, because most people think of speech therapy as in P's and Q's and minding your elocution. Really not where my heart was at, to be honest. So I dug a bit deeper and did all sorts of work on voice and actually also on the non-verbal stuff. So that was my forte. I moved over, I worked in the NHS in England and Scotland for over 25 years. Then I shifted over to Australia, had a job with one of the not-for-profits. And it wasn't quite working for me. So I got a little bit of an oomph out of the nest. And so that's how Comm Coach was born. So yes, and I'm now working with communication in business sphere. I also work with relationships as well, but the business is the primary.
That part where you said you got oofed out of the nest, there was a little gap that just paused when you got oofed out of the nest. What was it that you got? Did you get retrenched or something?
There was they decided to let me go. There was a misunderstanding of something that happened. I won't go into details, but yes, so something I had been considering for a while.
Yeah.
Was taken out of my hands and go on, get on with it now.
Oh, that was that part. It's just pause, the recording paused, and I knew I had missed something. I'm going, what was that? But that's awesome. Cool. So you're, tell me about, just in brief terms, who do you help most in your business right now?
I'm working primarily with women, though I really don't mind if gentlemen want to come and work with me. That's absolutely fine. But my primary work is with ladies in their middle to older age or younger, but particularly those who are struggling to get themselves heard.
Right. Heard in a work sense, in a business sense? What kind of heard?
Yeah, primarily. Having said that, usually you find that if people are struggling to get heard in a business sense, that also percolates down into relationships and wider communication skills. Okay. So I've got a few clients that I'm working with at the moment who are really ramping up how they're coming across, particularly if you're in a corporate situation where if you're the only woman around, or if you're working with very masculine women and you don't feel as though you're being heard, sometimes there's a bit of a disconnect and you almost need to do some translation between what you feel you want to say and in a way that the other person can hear. Yep. And that links in a bit with your avatar work as well. You've got to know who you're talking to be able to be able to express it in a way that the other person can hear.
Yeah, in the way that they can hear the message you're trying to portray.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. So tell me some of the, struggles that you've had to get a business up and going.
Okay, I've come from a family where nobody was an entrepreneur. Everybody was definitely employed, and the ethos going through growing up was, you go to school, you work hard, you get your exams, you go off to university, you get trained for a particular job, you go and do your job, and then you go home and sort of cultural norm. And so I don't know about business. Being shoved out of the nest, it was a case of, well, now what? What do I do? How do I do it? I didn't even know the language, going back to my thing, I didn't even know the language of setting up a business, of what it was involved. So has been a struggle, and getting over that and saying, right, come on, you can do this.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was it that kept that motivation going for you? Because, everyone's so different, and people say, how are you so motivated? It's like, well, actually, it's because my alternative is this, or whatever that is. How do you keep your motivation going?
The motivation is that now I have been working outside of speech therapy for so long that if I wanted to go back, I'd have to re-register. I'd have to do 100 hours of supervised work, It would be so hard to get back into doing it that I'm thinking, no, come on, get on with it.
So you've kind of left yourself no plan B.
Well, exactly. I've worked with those.
Yeah. Cool. And what? Sorry, I have a frog in my throat. I think you.
It's catching.
It. What is some of the, for you? So for people that are listening, we all have this illusion at times that we see other people and that they have it perfect, or they've never stuffed up, or they've never felt like, I don't want to get out and do it today. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you've made? And mistakes are really easy to see in hindsight. Mm-hmm. We obviously go through them. But what are some of the biggest mistakes that you feel you've made in beginning a business?
Listening to my own belief system, aka bullshit. Belief system, BS.
Yeah.
So listening to that limiting belief that I can't do this just because I haven't had the experience growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean I can't do it.
Yeah.
There's been an awful lot of internal work that's been necessary to do, because like the ladies that I've worked with and sort of hit a ceiling in terms of not just we talk about the glass ceiling in terms of remuneration, but even just hitting that ceiling that, well, you're a woman. Why should I listen to you? I've been doing the same for myself. I've had my own little ceiling, and I've been pushing up against it thinking, why aren't I going any further? Whereas by pulling apart the ceiling and letting myself go through it, that's where I'm at the moment.
And I love the way, and I know that a lot of people will relate to that, because we do talk about that glass ceiling that we can't get through. And I get that conceptually we'll have an idea of, I'm butting up against something. So what do you do when you feel you're butting up against something, and, where do you go for help? Like, what kind of thing has been the most benefit for you to help you crack that glass and start getting through that ceiling?
Without a doubt, coaching.
Yeah.
Having somebody hold me accountable with the right combination of carrot and stick. So that is a case of saying, no, you can do this. Really, you can. And by the way, you're going to be doing it before we next meet. So yeah, it's the right combination of carrot and stick. And yes, coaching and mentoring have undoubtedly been the biggest breakthrough for me.
Yeah. And there comes a point, I guess, that that you need coaching or mentoring or something, because that I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we necessarily consciously know that we don't know what we don't know. We just know that something's not right.
Yeah. And if you have an outside pair of eyes looking in on it, who can go, yeah, this is where you're getting stuck. This is where you need to take the next step.
Yeah.
Then
so being brave to take that decision to reach out and ask for some help.
Absolutely.
What's one of the hardest decisions you've ever had to make in your business?
I think he was looking at honing in on who my avatar is.
Yeah.
Because we all have the idea, oh, I'm here to help the world. I don't want to stop anybody coming to work with me. I don't want to exclude anyone.
Yeah.
And making that decision to go, actually, no, I'm going to go for one person. I'm going to really hone in on that person, and knowing and trusting that other people will come in if they resonate with it. But that getting out of your own way and sort of saying, no, it's not one size fits all. If I make the decision to work with Jill, for instance, the name of my avatar, then that decision is going to take me further forward. Even although at the time it feels like, but I'm closing off doors, which I can't afford to do at the moment. Well, actually, yes, you can.
So would I be right in saying then that it's, what is the saying they use in business? An inch wide and a foot deep?
Mile deep.
Mile deep.
Mile deep.
I just knew. So do you believe that statement is true?
Yes.
In your experience now that you've changed it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What's the best advice? And I know advice should be given out very carefully in my mind. What's the best advice that you could give to somebody who is just starting out in business or wondering if they should, would, or could? What's the best advice that you could give them?
Connect with your story.
Okay, tell me more.
Well, we all have life experience. And if you have something that you can pull on, and I don't know if you've heard the latest sort of meme of turning your mess into your message. That's where you're at. I mean, if you feel as though you've had some life experience, don't waste it, basically. If you've got something that you've experienced, you've gone through some crap. Sorry, you've gone through some dark periods in your life. And if that can be used by somebody else in terms of how you've got through it, you can bypass the much of the grit and the grime for somebody, then that would be definitely worth pursuing. Yeah. So if somebody's thinking about it, go back in your life. What is it that you experienced? What is it that you've struggled with? How have you achieved getting through that? Be clear about what you're saying. That's your business.
So how do you help somebody? Because I agree with what you're saying, but how do you help somebody to identify that without being, because in my experience, quite often people go, oh, but I got over that. I don't want to be a victim. So how do they structure that? And I know that you were in with the TED Talks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yep. That you had some coaching in with those guys. So how would you tell them to help them to orchestrate that or to put it together? What kind of things could you pick out to say, well, these kind of things are things that are important to other people? So for example, using the theory or the structure of the hero's journey, which we quite often see, it's getting your story to put it into that kind of structure. Absolutely. In order for their learning. So have you any kind of insights into how to do that? You and your frog.
Actually, sorry. Having the hero's journey mapped out, or even having a timeline of your own experiences, I find it very, very helpful, because I'm a visual person. And so that for me personally, I find this useful. And so when I'm talking to somebody and I've said, well, okay, tell me about your life. Have you looked at doing a timeline as to where things fit in your life? That's always important to do. And also the emotions that you're going through and you have been through. And what have you learned from them? Because no experience is ever wasted. And when you're explaining what you're doing, what you have done, what you've experienced to somebody and what you've done to get over it, it's taking people on an emotional journey.
Yeah.
Because whilst you can have a wonderful story and bully for you, but if it doesn't mean anything to the other person that you're talking to, because their immediate reaction, because we all have this me-centric brain, is what's in it for me. So it's not just about, oh, I'm telling my story, I've had a horrible life, da, 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 because yes, that could feed into the victimhood.
Yeah.
So you're looking at what you have learned from it, what the experiences you have been through, the emotional journey you've gone through. And that is what you're portraying to your audience in a way that's going to make sense to them.
Yeah. So would it be fair to say it's kind of like where you were, the journey that you had in the middle, and where you are now? And yes, as you say, adding emotions, but we communicate through story. Even us talking, like this is story that we're talking. How do you do this and that sort of thing? Yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you for that, because it's really important, you're right, to get the story out there. So tell me, what are some of your success habits?
Success habits?
Yes.
Having a morning routine.
Okay.
Which includes some self-care, what I'm putting in my body first thing in the morning. So I start, I mean, you don't want the details, do you? No. Okay. So
give us a brief, because look, so many people talk about routines, just for example, and they talk about, habits for structure and all this sort of thing, but they forget to talk about those little bits maybe in the morning of how you set up your day to make sure that you get the most out of it, but you keep the balance in it.
Yeah.
Well, so give us a brief steps.
I start the day with some self-care stuff. I give myself, my body, some pretty powerful antioxidants and anti-inflammatories, and then I carry on and I have my quiet time. I sit down with God and my Bible and I journal, and then from there I do some exercise. I also then set up what are my states, what are the 5 primary states I want to be experiencing during the day.
Okay.
So rather than having a to-do list, I have a to-be list.
Oh, okay.
And from my
really powerful
5 to-bes, I have what I call my 5-star approach. So I look at the start of an activity, what is my intention? What am I bringing to this activity? And then I go into the focus to completion. And then we finish off with a celebration.
Okay. All right. I've never heard of that way before, but
I do my 5-star approach. I mean, excuse me if I can. And I have on sticky notes 5 things in for the day. So determination, curiosity, discipline, love, self-belief. And the bit in the middle
is Wonder Woman.
Careful, Wonder Woman. Now, that relates, and that's on my whiteboard sitting in front of me. So I've got that all the time to look at.
So something, as you say, visual, because I stick Post-it notes on the fridge. I write on my bathroom mirror and things like that, because unconsciously your mind just goes boom, straight to that in the morning with it before you're even fully awake to realize what you're doing.
Exactly.
So really powerful.
Yeah.
So I can't believe we've been talking for 20 minutes already.
Really?
So tell me, we touched on Avatar, as you know, one of my favorite subjects a few moments ago. So when we're talking about Avatar, or AKA your ideal client, and who it is you're talking to, so how do you get your message out so that they hear you and want to work with you?
Okay. One of the things is that you need to know exactly who you're talking to, get into their skin. And it's really quite tricky and a conscious decision to get out of your head, out of your heart, into them. So you are trying to get into their skin. What is it that they are experiencing? This is all your avatar work. What's the voice?
But where do you, for example, talk to attract them in? Where do you talk so they will hear you? When you've done the work on, okay, this is what they need to hear, where do you talk, or how do you put some structure into place in order for them to hear you and go down the line of working with you, if that makes sense?
Okay, so are you talking about how I actually reach out
Yeah, how do you, like, where do you put your message,
Okay.
or what do you do in order for clients to come and work with you?
Come find me. Okay. I'm involved in a few networking groups, some locally based, some internationally based. Most of my clients would inhabit LinkedIn and Facebook rather than, say, Instagram or TikTok or whatever.
Yeah.
So I focus.
Let's not go there. Yeah.
I focus my attention on those two platforms.
Right.
Not with the consistency that it requires.
Okay.
Up to that. So that's where I'm going with, because I know where my avatar hangs out in terms of social media.
Yeah.
Networking groups, I'm looking at where would they be hanging around. So just looking, tweaking where I'm putting myself, who I'm getting in front of, where do they hang around, what's the sort of places they're likely to be in, and we target where what my networking is from there.
Cool. Awesome. And I know that you run some events and things like that where how do you do, like, are you familiar with putting together like a marketing plan? How do you do that? Or is it hit and miss? And none of that is wrong. How do you structure it if you have, say, an event coming up?
Mm-hmm. If I have one of my one-day intensives, which haven't been happening since lockdown, just about getting ready to put them online in a modular form, because nobody wants to sit 8 hours in front of a screen at one go.
Oh, I don't know about that. I've had a couple of 2-day events and they've been fine with it, but that's okay.
Yeah. I don't know that I want to sit in front of a screen for 8 hours, let alone the poor punters. Anyway, my point is that you start with the end in mind, and then you reverse engineer, sending out information about save the date. Then you put back in again another email, maybe a couple of weeks later, explaining what it's about, putting links to a landing page or an opt-in page, I should say.
So do you have all that planned out before the event? Do you know what I mean? Or do you just decide as you go? That's what I'm after.
Yeah. No, the idea is that you have a date in the diary and you work back from there.
Reverse engineer, my favorite thing to do is
Indeed.
reverse engineer. So tell me, what is one of your biggest fears?
I suppose that nobody listens to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. And again, and I love that you're being so real and honest, because some people will put a perfect answer on it or something like that. And the thing is that even though we're in business, even though we've taken the steps out, even though we've done whatever, there's quite often still an underlying doubt in ourselves, and we get a bit fearful, and we have some days I still get up and go, oh my God, what the hell am I doing? But people have an illusion that we have it all together. And I think it's important for people to know that, to me anyway, tell me if you're the same, I still have a lot of the same fears that I had that will come up now and again. But now they come up and they're fleeting. They will turn around much quicker.
Yeah.
So I still have the, who the hell am I, a waitress from Ireland, what the bloody hell can I do? To what the hell are you talking about? Just look at the evidence of what you've done. It flicks a lot quicker, but the fear is still quite often there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I've learned very quickly with my previous work in terms of the non-verbal stuff is, if you can dig deep and go, yeah, I do know that. If there's any sense of disconnect between what you're saying and how you're feeling, your body will give it away.
Oh, how does it do that?
I was watching somebody's video, Facebook call to action video, and I asked the person afterwards, did you get any traction from that? And they said, not a single contact. I said, oh, okay. How did you feel about that? Were you really in touch with what you were saying? Well, there was a bit of reticence there. I maybe wasn't quite as confident as I could have been. I went, yeah. Go back and look at it again. All the way through, there were tiny micro shakes of her head.
Right.
She did not connect with what she was saying.
So a lot of that non-verbal little tips.
So the person on the other end was looking at that, maybe didn't actually perceive what was going on, but looked at it and went, I don't trust that person. There's something about them that I don't quite trust.
It's when you can't quite put your finger on it. That you've just reminded me of a mentor of mine, a very dear lady who's still here in Perth today. She's 82 now. But she actually trained under Bandler, one of the creators of NLP. And I don't know if you've ever seen the program Lie to Me.
Oh, yes.
The guy, there's a blink in the eye, there's a whatever. I always remember her, we were in a group setting, and I remember her showing us a video of that, the ballet dancer that deflected, forget his name. Anyway, she possibly of an interview that had been done with him, and she was able to pick out, see there, he's not quite connecting with that, see how genuine he is there, from all of these little micro things that were being said. And it was quite phenomenal. So you're right. Sometimes so we won't recognize those little micro things, but we will recognize something doesn't feel right.
Exactly.
And that's where it's quite, that's a great point to actually finish up on. We're just about finished for this one. So before we do finish, can you tell people that will be listening to this how they can best contact you should they want to?
Absolutely. I have a Facebook page, which is Comm Coach, COMMCOACH.
Yep.
And I'm also have a email address, which is commcoach@corner.net.au. At the moment,
Corner, CORNER.
Yeah. At the moment, the website is just about coming to birth, but we're still in the birth pangs, so we're not quite there yet.
You're in labour.
Oh boy, are we in labour.
I love it.
A couple of centimetres dilated at the moment, so we'll go from there.
You women will all know what we mean. Men, some of you might. That's cool. Look, Wendy, thank you so much. I know we're hopping over to have another interview in a moment, but thank you so much for having this interview today. And it's been awesome having a chat with you. I know we could chat for hours, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Carmel. Much appreciated.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.